They offered him $12 million for 30 seconds of work. He said no without hesitation. March 1997, Beverly Hills, a conference room on the top floor of one of Hollywood's most powerful talent agencies. Clint Eastwood sits across from three executives in $5,000 suits. They've been talking for 45 minutes. Clint hasn't said more than 10 words. On the table between them is a contract. A cosmetics company wants Clint to be the face of their new anti-aging line for men. $12 million for a single commercial shoot. 2 days of work maximum. The executives are smiling, confident. This is easy money. Every other actor in Hollywood would sign without reading the fine print. But Clint just looks at the contract, doesn't touch it, doesn't pick up the pen they've placed next to it. And in the next 5 minutes, he's going to teach everyone in that room something about integrity that they'll never forget. To understand this moment, you need to understand what Hollywood was becoming in 1997. The industry was obsessed with youth. Actors were getting facelifts at 35. Actresses were disappearing from screens at 40. The message was clear. Aging was failure. Wrinkles were weakness. Gray hair was career death. And here was Clint Eastwood, 67 years old, face lined like a roadmap, hair silver, body still strong but unmistakably aged. He looked exactly like what he was, an old man. And Hollywood hated that. Not because Clint wasn't successful. He was one of the biggest stars in the world. Unforgiven had won him 2 Oscars just 5 years earlier. His films made money. His name sold tickets. But he looked old. And in an industry built on fantasy, that was a problem. The cosmetics company saw an opportunity. Anti-aging products for men were exploding. The market was worth billions. But it was missing something: credibility, authority. A man who could sell the idea that aging gracefully meant fighting aging aggressively. Clint Eastwood was perfect. He was masculine, iconic, respected. If he endorsed anti-aging cream, every man over 50 in America would buy it. The executives knew this. They'd done the research. They'd run the numbers. $12 million was nothing compared to what they'd make. One of the executives, a man named Richard Kellerman, leans forward. His smile is practiced, professional. Mr. Eastwood, this is a tremendous opportunity, not just financially, though obviously the compensation is exceptional. This is about legacy. This is about showing men that aging doesn't mean giving up, that you can still be strong, still be vital, still be yourself. Clint doesn't respond, just keeps looking at the contract. Richard continues, "We're not asking you to lie. We're not asking you to pretend you're 30. We're asking you to be honest, to tell men that taking care of yourself matters, that there's no shame in wanting to look your best, that aging gracefully means aging intentionally." Still nothing from Clint. Another executive, a woman named Susan Marks, tries a different approach. Her voice is softer, more personal. "Mr. Eastwood, I've been a fan of yours since I was a little girl. My father took me to see Every Which Way But Loose when I was 7. You've been a part of my life for 30 years, and watching you age, watching you continue to work, continue to be relevant, it's inspiring. This commercial isn't about vanity. It's about inspiration. It's about telling people that life doesn't end at 50 or 60 or 70, that you can still be powerful, still be present." Clint finally speaks. His voice is low, measured. "What's in the cream?" Susan blinks. "I'm sorry? The anti-aging cream? What's in it?" Susan looks at Richard. Richard looks at his notes. "Well, it's a proprietary blend. Retinol, peptides, hyaluronic acid. It's clinically proven to reduce fine lines and wrinkles." "Does it work?" Richard smiles. "Absolutely. We have studies showing significant improvement in skin elasticity and texture after just 6 weeks of use." Clint nods slowly. "So it makes you look younger." "That's the goal, yes, but not artificially, not like surgery. This is natural enhancement, helping your skin be the best version of itself." Clint picks up the contract, reads the first page, then the second. The executives wait. They think they've got him. He's considering it. He's weighing the offer. After a few minutes, Clint sets the contract down, pushes it back across the table. "I'm not going to do this." Richard's smile falters. "I'm sorry. Is the compensation not sufficient? We can negotiate. We have flexibility. It's not about the money." "Then what is it?" "Because I have to tell you, Mr. Eastwood, this is one of the most lucrative endorsement deals in history. You'd be set for life. I'm already set for life." Susan leans in. "Is it the product? Because we can make changes. We can work with you on the messaging. We can make sure it aligns with your values. It's not the product. Then help us understand. What's the issue?" Clint looks at both of them. His face is calm, but there's something underneath it now, something firm. "The issue is that I'm 67 years old, and I look 67 years old, and I'm fine with that." The room goes quiet. Richard tries to recover. "Of course, and that's what makes you perfect for this. You're confident. You're comfortable in your own skin, comfortable enough that you don't need cream to change it." But that's not what this commercial says. This commercial says that looking old is a problem, that wrinkles are something to fix, that aging is something to fight. And I don't believe that. Susan's voice is careful now, cautious. "Mr. Eastwood, we're not saying aging is bad. We're saying taking care of yourself is good." Those are two different things. Clint shakes his head. "No, they're not. Not the way you're selling it. You're telling men that if they use your cream, they'll look younger, which means you're telling them that looking their age is wrong, that the natural process of getting old is something to be ashamed of. And I'm not going to be part of that." Richard is getting frustrated now. You can see it in his posture, his tone. "With all due respect, Mr. Eastwood, you're being idealistic. This is business. This is how the world works. People want to look good. They want to feel confident. And if our product helps them do that, what's wrong with it?" "Nothing's wrong with your product. What's wrong is pretending that aging is optional, that if you just buy the right cream, take the right pills, do the right procedures, you can stay young forever. You can't. None of us can. And the more we pretend otherwise, the more we make getting old feel like failure." Susan tries one more time. "But you're Clint Eastwood. You've been an icon for 40 years. Don't you want to maintain that? Don't you want to stay relevant? I'm relevant because of the work I do, not because of how I look. And the day I start worrying more about my face than my films is the day I stop being relevant." Richard stands up. He's done trying to be polite. "You're making a mistake. $12 million is a lot of money to turn down over philosophy." Clint stands too. Slowly. He's taller than Richard, broader, and even at 67, there's something about him that makes you step back. It's not about philosophy. It's about honesty. I've spent 40 years in this industry watching people destroy themselves trying to stay young, facelifts that leave them looking like wax figures, procedures that go wrong, drugs that mess them up, all because they're terrified of getting old, all because Hollywood tells them that aging means irrelevance. And I'm not going to add to that. I'm not going to stand in front of a camera and tell men that they need to look younger to matter, because they don't. None of us do. He walks toward the door, then stops, turns back. "You want to sell cream, sell cream. But don't use me to sell the idea that getting old is something to be ashamed of, because it's not. It's just life. And life is hard enough without being told you're doing it wrong." He leaves. The door closes. Richard and Susan sit in stunned silence. They just lost the biggest endorsement deal of the year, and they lost it to a 67-year-old man who refused to pretend he wasn't 67. The story spreads through Hollywood quickly. By the end of the week, everyone knows. Clint Eastwood turned down $12 million because he wouldn't sell anti-aging cream. The reactions are mixed. Some people think he's crazy. $12 million for 2 days of work? For a commercial? Who turns that down? But others, especially older actors, understand. They've felt the pressure, the constant reminders that they're too old, too tired, too irrelevant, the suggestions that maybe they should consider a little work, just a little touch-up. Nothing drastic. They know what Clint did. He drew a line. He said no, not because he was against cosmetics or self-care, but because he refused to participate in the lie that aging is optional, that looking young is more important than being real. A few months later, Clint is on set directing Absolute Power. It's a thriller about corruption and power. He's playing a thief who witnesses a murder and becomes a target. The character is old, weathered, tired, and Clint plays him exactly that way. No makeup to hide the wrinkles, no lighting tricks to soften the lines. Just a 67-year-old man looking like a 67-year-old man. During a break, one of the younger actors, Scott Glenn, asks him about it. Scott has heard the story about the cosmetics deal. He's curious. "Mr. Eastwood, can I ask you something?" Clint nods. "That endorsement deal you turned down, was it really $12 million? Clint looks at him. "Does it matter?" "I'm just curious." "About what?" "Why you said no. Most people wouldn't have." Clint is quiet for a moment. Then he says something Scott will never forget. "I said no because I don't want to spend the rest of my life lying." "About what?" "About who I am. I'm an old man. That's not a bad thing. That's just a fact. And the more we pretend it's not, the more we make young people terrified of getting old, and old people ashamed of being old." Scott thinks about this. "But don't you ever want to look younger? Feel younger?" Clint shakes his head. "I want to feel like myself. And myself is 67. I've earned every year, every wrinkle, every gray hair. Why would I want to erase that? Because society tells you to? Because some company wants to make money off your insecurity? No thanks. But what about when you can't get roles anymore? When they stop hiring you because you're too old? Then I'll direct, or I'll retire. But I won't lie about my age to stay relevant, because the moment I do that, I'm telling every person watching that getting old is something to hide, and I don't believe that." Over the next 25 years, Clint Eastwood never changes his stance. He never endorses beauty products, never gets cosmetic surgery, never pretends to be younger than he is. He just keeps working, keeps directing, keeps acting, and he keeps aging. At 74, he directs Million Dollar Baby, wins 2 more Oscars. At 78, he directs Gran Torino, box office hit, cultural phenomenon. At 84, he directs American Sniper, highest-grossing war film in history. At 91, he directs Cry Macho, still working, still relevant, still himself. And through it all, his face tells the story. Every wrinkle, every line, every bit of sagging skin. It's all there, visible, undeniable, honest, and people respect him for it. Not despite his age, but because of how he carries it. With dignity, with acceptance, with the understanding that aging is not failure, it's survival. In 2015, a journalist from GQ asks Clint about aging in Hollywood. The conversation inevitably turns to the cosmetics deal. The journalist is blunt. "Do you regret turning down that money?" Clint doesn't hesitate, not for a second. But it was $12 million. "I've made a lot of money in my life. I don't need more. I need to be able to look in the mirror and recognize the person looking back. And if I'd done that commercial, if I'd stood there and told men they needed cream to be acceptable, I wouldn't recognize that person." "That wouldn't be me," the journalist pushes. "But don't you think there's value in taking care of your appearance, in presenting your best self?" "Of course. I exercise. I eat well. I take care of myself." But taking care of yourself and hiding yourself are different things. One is about health. The other is about fear. And I refuse to live in fear of getting old. The journalist asks one final question. What would you say to young actors who are already getting procedures done, who are already terrified of aging? Clint thinks for a long moment. "I'd say this. Your face is going to change. Your body is going to change. That's not optional. The only choice you have is whether you're going to accept it or fight it. And fighting it is exhausting. Fighting it means never being satisfied, never being enough, always chasing something you can't catch. But accepting it? Accepting it means freedom. It means you can focus on the work instead of the mirror, on the story instead of the wrinkles, on being good instead of looking good. And that's where real power comes from. Not from looking 30 at 60, from being 60 and not giving a damn that you don't look 30. That's who Clint Eastwood is, not the man with no name, not Dirty Harry, the man who said no to $12 million because integrity isn't for sale, the man who chose honesty over vanity, the man who understood that the most radical thing you can do in Hollywood is age naturally. In that conference room in 1997, when those executives offered him a fortune to pretend aging was something to fix, Clint could have said yes. He could have taken the money, could have done the commercial, could have told himself it was just business. But he didn't, because for Clint, it wasn't just business. It was about what you stand for when nobody's watching, what you refuse to compromise on even when the price is high, and what you teach the world by how you live. The cosmetics company found another spokesperson, a younger actor who needed the money more than he needed the principal. The commercial aired, the product sold, and within 5 years that actor had gotten so much work done that his own mother said she barely recognized him. But Clint Eastwood at 92 still looks like Clint Eastwood. Just older, just more weathered, just more himself. And when people see him, they don't see failure. They don't see someone who let himself go. They see a man who lived a full life and has the face to prove it. They see someone who chose truth over image, who valued being real more than being ageless, who understood that the most beautiful thing about a face isn't its smoothness, it's its story. Every wrinkle is a laugh, every line is a worry, every bit of sagging skin is a year survived. And erasing that isn't self-improvement, it's self-erasure. That's the legacy. Not the films, though those matter. Not the awards, though those are nice. The legacy is this. In an industry that worships youth and punishes age, Clint Eastwood refused to play the game. He got old, visibly, undeniably, honestly. And he stayed powerful, stayed relevant, stayed respected, not by pretending he wasn't aging, but by proving that aging doesn't make you less. It just makes you different. And different isn't worse, it's just true. On that day in March 1997, Clint Eastwood walked out of a conference room $12 million poorer and infinitely richer, because he kept something more valuable than money. He kept himself. If this story resonated with you, if you believe authenticity matters more than image, consider staying connected. There are more stories like this, more moments where integrity won over convenience. More reminders that the most powerful choice you can make is to be yourself, completely and unapologetically. That's the real legacy, not what you gain by compromising, but what you keep by refusing to.